Hello, this is Michael Paul with the New Orleans Scottish Rite College. Not long ago, I received an email from someone with a photo of an advertisement for Freemasonry. It was a solicitation for members. With a bit of surprise, I was asked, "Is this allowed?" Well, let's talk about it. Soliciting members has been historically not allowed in Freemasonry. Masonic discipline has been known in some cases where this rule was violated, but times do seem to be changing, and some jurisdictions are modifying their old positions on the subject. Of course, in other jurisdictions, solicitation is still just not allowed. Well, mostly. In some cases, there are levels of solicitation that are allowed. Maybe it's not viewed as open solicitation. You may be able to ask someone to join, for example, if you know them very well and feel that they would make a good Mason. Or you may invite someone to a get to know event at your lodge where you don't exactly ask, but you make it known that they would be welcomed. So, what's behind the change from not wanting to ask at all to somewhat asking or even openly soliciting members through advertising? The bottom line would seem to be money. Many jurisdictions have seen a sharp decrease in revenue. We also regularly have been told of declining memberships. So, what was originally behind this don't ask someone to join policy? Why would soliciting someone to join or advertising for members be any sort of problem? Advertising is a sound business practice. If you want more customers and more money, then you advertise. Why should this be a problem for Freemasonry? Socrates is often credited with the phrase, "Know thyself." It is considered an essential first step on the path to wisdom. Before we can master ourselves, we need to know and understand ourselves. This does not only apply to individuals, but also organizations. Let's try to understand a bit about Masonry. First, Freemasonry was created as an initiatic order. Second, Masonry's primary goal has always been personal self improvement. That's who we are. But what does it mean? The idea was that we take someone who is basically good and give them the tools to improve themselves. Then these Masons can go into society as an example of good human beings. Society can benefit through the example of these individuals living the teachings of Freemasonry. Of course, the philosophy used by Masonry, as well as its manner of initiation, was not created by Freemasonry. This goes back to the time of our very, very early days of mankind. I've never read a convincing account of the first time humans initiated other humans, or how initiation was defined or conducted. But clearly, early humans did have an understanding that there was more to life than just existence. They developed ceremonies for most all important events in life. We can find accounts of initiation some 4,000 or so years ago. Now, this doesn't mean that this is when mankind first began the use of initiation. It only means that this is when we can find records of it. The Great Pyramid in Egypt is believed to have been a site of initiation. Certainly the temple at Karnak was such a site. The Great Library of Alexandria was not only one of the largest and most important libraries in the ancient world, it was also a school of instruction into the ancient mysteries. We often read in Masonic literature of Freemasonry's connection to the ancient mystery schools. The Great Library of Alexandria is just one example. While we can only guess at the manner of very early initiation, we do know that over time initiations became well rehearsed and solemn ceremonies. Steps were taken before, during, and following initiations to try to ensure that each initiation would offer a specific opportunity to the candidate. The opportunity offered in a proper initiation was said to be the opening of a symbolic door through which the candidate could pass if they so desired. Beyond that open door awaited additional enlightenment. Early speculative Freemasonry embraced the classic esoteric idea of initiation, which resulted in our being defined as an initiatic order rather than a club or civic organization. The three steps of esoteric initiation, which were incorporated into our Masonic ceremonies of initiation, are the desire to be initiated, the desire to initiate, and the proper setting. Freemasonry not only required its candidates to be upstanding members of society, but certain steps needed to be followed in the joining process. Those with an interest in Freemasonry were required to ask a Mason for a petition. This fulfilled the first required element of the candidate clearly expressing their desire to be initiated. The second element was the vote of the lodge. Those seeking to join did not simply pay a fee and were automatically accepted. They were investigated for worthiness, and their petition was put to the vote of the lodge. Only those who passed the ballot would be initiated. This fulfilled the second element of providing the desire to initiate. The third element is the proper setting. Obviously, a lodge filled with loud laughing or talking members would not be a suitable setting. A proper, valid initiation requires a dignified, solemn setting that is void of distractions, nonsense, or anything for the entertainment of the members at the candidate's expense. The idea was that by following these steps, it would better the chance of that symbolic door being opened. But notice, I said better the chance, and not guarantee. Sadly, there are no guarantees in life. At no time in history could anyone be free of unexpected events. Maybe the candidate had a bad headache or a stomach ache, or there was a loud thunderstorm going on, or any one of countless events that were unexpected and could interfere with the conferring of a proper initiation. The very best that could ever be expected is to try, to the best of everyone's ability, to give each and every candidate the gift of a proper initiation. Now we fast forward to today. We have membership problems. We don't have enough candidates coming in, and we also have a retention problem with those who do join us. We know the story. Following World War II, there was a dramatic increase in members. We don't have clear reasons as to why this massive increase happened, but it did. Grand Lodges and other Masonic bodies had to restructure to accommodate all the new members. But then, within 20 or so years, we started a dramatic decrease in membership. So, what were all the Masonic bodies to do after expanding their infrastructure to accommodate larger memberships? They needed a certain level of membership and money to operate. Should they downsize? But what would happen if they downsized and then another dramatic membership increase happened? From a business standpoint, advertising is a no-brainer. Businesses advertise to stay in business. So what about Freemasonry? It seems that the decision was made not to downsize and get more members. I believe that we need to go back to the quote I gave earlier, know thyself. Exactly who are we as Masons, lodges, and Grand Lodges? Exactly what do we want to be? Maybe the answer has evolved over time. I'm a Master Mason just under 50 years now. I well remember when it was the firm rule of every Grand Lodge, at least of which I was aware, that asking someone to join was a very big no-no. It was necessary that the candidate reach out and request to join. It was never explained why such a requirement existed, but it did exist. Today, more than a few Grand Lodges are running advertising campaigns soliciting non-Masons. So, what are we? Are we an initiatic order or a club? How do we understand an initiatic order and a club? What will it soon mean to be a Freemason? I believe that to find this answer, we need to go back to the time around when I joined. We had a rule about joining, but it was never explained to me why this rule existed or what it meant. If we look at that time, it was not just a matter of decreasing membership, but it was also a time of decreasing Masonic education. I believe that we should take another look at those three basic rules of esoteric initiation from the early days of initiation and examine them. We must understand that even at the great temple at Karnak, valid initiations could not be guaranteed even by the most dedicated masters. Sometimes things happen that were unexpected and not preventable, but it must clearly be understood that not receiving a valid initiation does not make you less of a member. It only means that you may not have received that ambiguous, difficult to explain special opportunity that can come when everything is working during an initiation. So let's take the impossibility of being able to guarantee success, and even with the greatest of care, and couple that with the lessening of Masonic education over time. And by that I mean not clearly explaining to the candidates or members why the steps of valid initiation are important. Being a Mason does mean different things to different people. Most Masons are aware of the phrase that the first place you become a Mason is in your heart. Such a person does not have a dues card or membership in any lodge, but in his heart he is a Mason, or at least has the qualities of a Mason. This thought is expanded on with an old Rosicrucian thought. It is that one can never become a Rosicrucian. They either always have been one, or they never will be one. The only way to understand this thought is to realize that something might be a philosophy as well as an organization. But what does all of this mean within the organization of Freemasonry? There is no provision for membership in one's heart. You become a member of the organization of Freemasonry when you pay your initiation fees, go through the various degrees, and receive your dues card, right? Well, this brings us back to my comment that being a Mason means different things to different people. Is the organization something to which we belong, and the philosophy only something that we think about? Let me again say this as clear as possible. At no time in the history of any initiatic order was the quality of membership evaluated by the quality or success of an initiation. If the lodge and a candidate follows all of the accepted rules for a valid initiation, it's not guaranteed that it will happen. This does not in any way, shape, or manner make the member any sort of less of a member. It only means that that special gift of initiation that many claim to have received does not happen. So let's take this to the logical next steps. We are in a time where money and membership is a serious concern. We are also in a time where several generations of Masons may have received little to no esoteric education in Freemasonry. So maybe when the current money and membership situation is weighed against a policy that is not well understood and is something that the most enlightened say may or may not happen, then it seems like a no-brainer. Advertising is a sure thing. Let's get our membership up and increase our bank accounts. That's a smart business decision. That's a fact of life. But there is another fact of life. If you take a hammer and lightly tap on a pane of glass, no one can tell you how many taps it will take before the glass breaks. But it is a fact that at some point it will break. I suggest that we give long consideration to who and what we are. I suggest that our leadership give long and serious consideration as to what it might mean historically and presently to have a valid Masonic initiation. Thank you for watching. If you like the videos, please hit the like button and subscribe to us. See you next time.